Today on the episode, we're joined by guest Jon Buhagiar. Get the latest on BSides Pittsburgh, dig into whatever you're actually ready for a pen test, and what happens when you cheat at CMMC. This is Distilled Security Podcast.
Somewhere right now, someone is digging through folders trying to find the right version of an evidence file for the third time this week. Controls scattered across a dozen systems, owners who left the company months ago, due dates that already passed, nobody noticed. It's how it's always been done, and somehow we just accept it. There is a modern, better way. Episky. Visit us at episky.com/DSP for a special offer.
If you're leading a company today, you're not short on ideas. You're buried under them. More tools, more frameworks, more initiatives that were supposed to help and somehow made everything harder. Minus Partners exists for leaders who don't need another thing added. Minus Partners helps leadership teams remove friction that's been normalized over time, so execution gets easier, not harder. Less noise, clear decisions, faster execution. Minus Partners. What you remove defines you.
All right. Welcome back to Distilled Security Podcast. Before we get into our topics, gentlemen, we got a guest here on the podcast here. Jon, welcome, to the podcast here.
Thank you.
So to start off with, why don't you let the audience know who you are, how you got into cybersecurity, all that stuff and everything.
Okay.
Little topic, right?
Yeah, that was...
How you pronounce your last name?
Yeah.
Yep.
What are you talking about? I nailed it.
I know, you got it right. You did.
But do it again.
Yeah, it only took 20 times.
Yeah.
Take 21.
Take 22. Right. So probably about 25 years ago, it was me at a higher ed institute playing cat and mouse, trying to outsmart the students, of course, wanting to circumvent security. And then it evolved into, somebody across the world trying to circumvent my security.
Okay.
And that's what leads me to network security, right? I mean, it was a little more than that. We tried to design systems at the college, secure by design.
Okay.
Right. And
you're saying systems at colleges are secure by design.
Well,
He said they tried to.
They tried. Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
my
Systems
systems were, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it was the cat and mouse game that got me into it and got me hooked, right? But I'm more a blue teamer than a red teamer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm good at defending the castle. I tried storming the castle. Very difficult.
And what are you doing now? So that was then.
That was then. So
Yeah.
for the past 3 years, I've actually been working as a director of IT infrastructure for RareMed Solutions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
And for people that's not familiar, what does RareMed do?
so RareMed does patient assistance programs and bridge programs for rare medicines.
Gotcha.
Basically, if you
AKA expensive.
expensive and very rare conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the niche. Right?
Yeah.
But
So it's a underserved market because the population's not there, but
exactly.
you're getting kind of that niche
Right.
into that and help
Right.
serving those people and everything. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're definitely into the healthcare,
Yeah, very much so.
PHI, all the great stuff and everything.
Yeah.
And I imagine, isn't certain stuff like experimental, so the FDA would get into that, or no? Not
No.
Okay.
All the drugs that we have are FDA approved.
FDA approved.
Yeah,
Got it.
They might just be right out there, and you're paying for all the R&D up front.
Right. Yeah.
But again, like we do patients assistance programs, so they just want to get people treated and on a treatment plan.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, like 6 to 8 months after, we don't really have those patients anymore because they roll over to commercial pharmacy that actually processes the insurance. Yeah. I never knew this model even existed.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured. Once you get the clients, it would be more long term until obviously,
Yeah.
they pass away or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's interesting that it's just a kind of a transitional model that you have from a company perspective.
Yeah. You'll hear it at the end of commercials.
Okay.
Not so much our company, but other companies.
Is that right after it could?
Yeah. Exactly. Right.
Or you could try RareMed.
Yeah.
There you
Funny.
go.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for
and
having me.
yeah, I think we got a really great lineup here. But before we dive into a lot of the topic,
Well, I want to keep talking about Jon a little
do
bit.
it.
Yeah, and so I was looking at some of your background, and what's this about the books that you're involved with? Did you write some books? Did you?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a
so,
second.
so
Oh,
as
yeah.
yeah, so as a
So humble.
so as a natural extension, I was an instructor probably for the last 30 years,
Mhm.
right? That's
What kind of things did you teach?
mainly IT certifications.
Gotcha, okay.
So like think CompTIA, every Microsoft track since like Windows NT4. Yeah. So as a natural extension, I started writing books because education dries up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as you go on, nobody wants to get a cert. You can go to YouTube and get your own cert and get prepped for it. So I started writing books, and the books I got right now are like OT Sec, that's coming out here in December,
Okay.
and Network Plus, which
Nice.
so humble. I mean, I'm so grateful, I should say, to work with one of the guys that got me into the industry because I read his book, and now I'm co-authored with him.
Yeah,
well, who's
very
that?
cool.
Todd Lamley.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So you have 4 books you authored and already, and then 2 in the way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
6. Wow, that's
I
impressive.
mean, there's other editions of that same book. I've been doing it for like 10 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
Who's your publisher?
Wiley
Wiley.
Sybex.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's very cool.
And not to bring the topic off you, but your kid has something too.
Oh my gosh. He's a
Yeah.
rock star.
Yeah.
He is a rock star.
What's his name?
Joe. Yeah. So I'm Bohack and he's Jay Bohack. He assumed my pseudonym. Yeah. But now he developed he took a device that had been open sourced and he rewrote the firmware for it,
Okay.
and it does Bluetooth and wireless pen testing.
Oh,
And
okay. Nice.
It's called the Nyan box by Nyan Devices.
Okay.
And he's probably writing he's the guy that reads the white papers. So
Yeah. Right.
so he figured out a way to actually set off an iTag, because
Okay.
in the white paper you can do it, and it plays a really obnoxious noise. But we're just hanging out one day, and I'm like, "Hey, see that new Cyber Maddie YouTube? She's doing it on iBeacons." And like 3 hours later, he's like, "I see Discord, and he's releasing a new feature. You can locate I
that's
buttons
cool.
in
Yeah.
Target and Walmart." I'm
That's
like,
very
"Oh my
cool.
gosh."
Oh, that is
Yeah.
neat. Yeah. The other thing I see on here is amateur radio enthusiast. How long have you been doing that?
Since 22 years.
Yeah.
I
What's your
got-
call sign?
KB3 KGS.
There you go.
Yeah. So when Joe was born, I figured I'm going to be around a lot, around the house, taking care of a kid. I might as well get my amateur radio license, and it was when he was born. So 22 years ago, I got my license, and yeah, I got to get the general and the expert, but all in due time.
Well, good. Well, there's some people you should talk to at a
Oh, yeah.
conference coming up, because we have a whole village at the conference for
Segue.
wireless radio. Yeah, a wireless hacking village. Did you like that, Justin?
Yeah, I did. That was well placed.
Yeah. So, and so what we're talking about is BSides Pittsburgh. And if you're a listener to the show, you know that that's coming up here, July 10th, Friday. At this point, quick rundown on it is, the CTF has been closed for a while, and we have a great lineup of speakers. And by now, you've hopefully already looked at the listing of all the talks and started to figure out which one you want to go to. I've gotten some critical feedback already, and it was,
Yeah.
I know, it was basically akin to the fact that out of 4 tracks this year, there are so many things happening at the same time, and they just aren't going to be able
Your
to get to
conference
everything.
too awesome. You
Yeah.
got to tone down the
Too much good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And and something else, we just we didn't get all the sponsors we wanted, so we had to cut back on some things. One of the things that we pulled back on is recording. We never really saw. We only ever had a couple people complain that the recordings weren't out there. And so there's just, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do everything. So if you really like recordings and you really want to do that, push your your vendors a sponsor.
Right.
There's some more sponsorship to us next year.
And that's pricey, isn't it? Like,
It was surprisingly pricey, thousands of dollars per track to do it the right way. And so we're doing as much as we can, but that's one thing we couldn't do this year. So that means that you really have to show up and get to the talk you want to see, because you won't be able to watch it later. Let's see what else is going on. The villages. So new for this year, we have, and you're writing the OT book. So we have an ICS OT village for the first time this year. And some of our friends over at the OT Sec group here in Pittsburgh are putting that together. We have
their wall is really cool, by the way.
Oh, it's going to
really
look pretty
cool.
awesome. It's basically a big wall that they can wheel in that has all these components on it. And I think they said they needed access to some running water or some water. So I think they need to prime one of the
like a pump
systems.
Prime the
with
pump,
it.
literally.
And they're going to show you how to hack that stuff. So that'll be cool. And then another village new for this year is an improvement over something we've done before. We used to have speed mentoring. This year, we're going to do an entire career village. And I'm watching, I signed it out. Somebody said they would take it. Somebody had the idea and they're running with it. And they're putting together this awesome stuff. They have something called a fail lab, where you kind of talk about your failures so other people can listen and realize that failing isn't career ending.
You learn
something you got to do. They're going to do some resume reviews and some other kinds of mentorship. And then for a second year, the wireless radio ops village was a big hit last year. People said they wanted it back. The group who's doing that, they are an awesome group of folks. They're bringing all kinds of equipment in. I keep seeing updates on the Signal channel about, do you think the casino will have a problem if we bring this in, if we bring that in? And they're just going to
get bigger every year too.
Yeah.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah, exactly. And then continuing, there's various capture the flags events. There's Lockpick Village, speed mentoring will be part of continuing again, and then Birds of a Feather to get everybody kind of talking together who want to. And so sponsors, I believe we're over 20 this year so far, and we have well over 800 tickets sold at this point.
Nice.
The price did go up. We said it would go up. If this is your first time listening, it starts at $20 for a long time, then goes to $35 for a few months. Now it's at $75 a ticket. And the reason,
it, though.
It is. I mean, even the food and the drinks you'll have will typically cost you more than that if you're going to go buy it somewhere. It costs us more than that for each of you who are attending. So thank you for the sponsors, because that's how it's the ticket prices are kept so low for so long. And then after that, we have a after party from 5 until 7. The normal after party. And then after that, Justin, maybe you can tell us about the after party.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the first time ever, Distilled Security Podcast is sponsoring a little after party here. So we're going to be going down to a little bar in the north side called The Lion. The Lion is a fantastic cocktail place.
Very good.
They know their stuff. So you go up to them and you can, they have a whole list. Like they probably have 24 drinks that, they have from a cocktail perspective. But then if you just have taste for a cherry thing, a little spicy, they'll be white or brown from a liquor perspective. You're okay, brown. Okay. Do you like anise? Yes. They're okay, I got you. And they'll just whip up a brand new cocktail just for you and everything like that. We put them to the test 2 years ago.
Good.
And then last year we had a whole group ready to go. And unfortunately, somebody else
had a private event.
They had a private event.
So we unload 4 Ubers.
Yeah.
And everyone's just standing there.
They're
what's next?
And so, as the natural
we reserved
thought process is why don't we do that? Type of thing. So money's down, everything like that. We're gonna start advertising a little bit over LinkedIn. But if you're listening to this podcast and coming to BSides, definitely worth it. Coming there. It's rough time is gonna be from 7 to 9 ish. I don't know if we're cutting it off right at 9, but we'll figure it out if that's a good plan time and everything. But yeah, definitely come down.
Yeah. And so that's BSides Pittsburgh for you. Thanks for listening to the rundown. And Justin, I heard you
I
had some
had a
questions
Yeah.
about for Rick and me. So if you don't know, Rick also was part of the organizing committee, and so yeah, what do you want to know about conferences?
So I thought it was a good topic because I feel like a lot of people, the running of a conference is often kind of, shrouded in, in not secrecy, but you're not very
People don't think about it every day.
type of thing. And it is a lot of work, with it, not that I ever run a conference, but I see you guys and hear some of the details and everything. And I'm kind of curious, like you've been running this for 12 years, 13 years?
Since 2011.
Yeah. And everything. So, and you've been helping out the last, 2 or 3 years? 3
A
years?
little bit longer,
Or
yeah.
maybe a little
Or
longer,
something
but
like that.
it all blurs together. They get better
guess-
every year.
Like, tell me a little bit about running a conference. I mean, is it all that it's cracked up to be? It's like, it's great when it ends and everybody's happy and had a great time and everything. Like, that's the high part. But when do you start planning for it? Let's start there.
Well, this conference is on July 10th, so already we started for next year.
Oh, did you?
It used to be the day after. It used to be a long time ago. We would say, I'm not doing this for a couple of months. There were years where I said, all right, this is the last BSides Pittsburgh. I'm done. And I've said that out of the, what is this? The, 13th or 12th or 13th one in a row. And we skipped 1 year,
That's right,
2019 for COVID.
No, 2020.
2020. Yeah, we
yeah,
skipped
okay.
2020 for COVID. Thanks. And, but otherwise, we've been kind of do it. And so, when it was smaller, when we had hundreds of people or 100 people or hundreds of people, we didn't plan as much, left things kind of come together as
You had it in left field where
left field meeting space.
I love the elevator was in between the audience and the speaker. So you'd the elevator would open and the entire audience would go to look to see who just came.
One of the speakers should have next time someone comes up there, we're just going to everyone start clapping.
Yeah,
for it.
right.
That'd have been perfect.
Oh, that's great. That was an awesome space. And that was back in 2011, 2012. I think we did that one a couple years in a row, maybe 3. I can't remember.
Yeah, because they had an awesome deck like behind and everything, and you get the kegs out at like prior to lunchtime, and it was a good place for meeting people and everything. In fact, that's where I met Rocky way back in the day.
I didn't know
He came back from down from Cleveland, and we started having a beer. He brought his wife, and
That's awesome.
we're like,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. And so, what goes into it? So let's talk about, there's several different threads of things that happening, like work streams.
Yeah.
And we have a Slack channel on pitsec.com. So if you're not if you're not in a group in order to figure out what's happening in Pittsburgh, pittsec.com is a place you can go to self-sign up for a Slack channel. And then we have a organizers channel that's just the 7 or 8 of us. And then we have
volunteers
some
channel.
other channels for that and the conference
gotcha.
itself, and we'll use that as our daily. Like right now, it's more
daily.
like
You're communicating. Well, obviously coming up to this, right now it's daily, but
it's been several times a day lately, and then it's been almost daily for the last few weeks.
Okay,
and then it's usually a couple times a week, and then as we get further away, it's that. So we used to meet weekly, and then we brought in some organizing help who is coordinating some stuff, Appleseed events,
and they are fantastic.
Amanda,
so they do a lot of the minutia, chasing, getting quotes, all that stuff.
So much coordination. Like they'll really interface with the venue a lot to figure out the space and like prep the food, and then they're working with vendors to make sure that those interactions are happening. They help prep a lot of the documentation because you need like sponsor packets and things like that to convince people. So just like a ton of it's not just administrative stuff, because they absolutely contribute great ideas and thoughts and everything too, but they really do a lot of heavy lifting in terms of the stuff that needs more close attention, like interacting with sponsors or the venue and things like that.
Well, you just made me think about this in a way that I don't know if a lot of people think about. Is back when we did the first couple, it's basically, let's just go get some speakers and go see if some people will give us some money to pay for a space. And it was just kind of ad hoc stuff got done, and no big deal. People, either bring food in, or people will find out how to eat because they'll get hungry and they'll just solve for it themselves. But if we can provide that, but now it's run more like a business. So when you think about it, all the aspects for running a business are things we do for this. We have revenue, and so that's the sponsors. We have why do the sponsors come to an event? It's to talk to the audience. And so for BSides, everybody's a participant. So that's like the nomenclature you use in BSides. If it's a different kind of conference, there might be attendees or whatever. And so if you're selling sponsorships, the sponsors will come there. Some of them actually sponsor just because they want to keep the community going. They are not looking for anything other than a little bit of name recognition. And then other sponsors, part of their whole marketing plan is to go out and talk to people and get leads. And so if you're coming to BSides Pittsburgh, please talk to the sponsors, let them feel loved, because they're the reason we can do all this. So that's,
and they give away a bunch of stuff.
They do lots of you put your name in their drawing, and there's all 20 sponsors with really cool, expensive gifts. And then, and so that's the main revenue source. That's like the only revenue source. And then on the other side of it, you have the expenses. And so it's anything from, we need the venue, we need to pay for food. Some venues will comp the space if you buy a minimum spend of food. And our spend of food is in the
casino does that.
Our spend of food is in the $80,000 to $90,000 range. So
is that food and alcohol?
No.
That's
it is food and alcohol, but in the form of drink tickets that we get. And so if you sponsor, we give certain levels, certain number of drink tickets. Larger sponsors, more expensive ones, get a larger number of them. Things like that.
Gotcha.
Well, and so to your point, like a business, right? So then you have to think about, well, what do you do to drum up demand? And it's like a service delivery thing, right? So you're doing all the, there's social media and advertising, there's the website and making sure it's updated. There's figuring out the villages and making sure that you sort of maintain, I think what I've seen over the years anyways, maintain a balance of like the fan favorites, but then try a couple new things almost every year, or enhance some things and just sort of explore what's going to be cool the next year. And then obviously you have to have a whole bunch of great speakers. And they come in from everywhere. And so just you building out all the things that are going to bring people in and making sure they know about it and all that stuff.
What I'm hearing is you should definitely try to do this by yourself.
Go through a conference. In fact, with marketing, it's we market to people to get people to attend. Those participants, and then we're marketing separately to sponsors, the companies that sponsor. And so, and then it's almost a separate set of marketing to get people to want to submit a talk. And so all like 3 different sets of audiences.
Well, and maybe 4 if you count all the volunteers that help out the day of.
We do market to the volunteers, come help us out. And the volunteers have gotten that. The team is putting that on. And you can go to the website and look at the About Us page and see all the organizers. And the teams who's putting that on, Marissa, Annie, folks like that are doing an excellent job with getting volunteers. And they've actually matured the organization of it up. It used to be people would just say they want to volunteer, and then they'd wander around. We give them a special colored shirt so we know who they were. And if somebody needed like a case of water carried from this point to another point, you just say, hey, can you go help with that? And they'd run over and do it. And everybody would be so gratefully and go do it. Now they've organized it where there are 2-hour shifts, and that way you can sign up on a system to where you want to go. In order to cut down on volunteers just volunteering and then never doing their work, they buy a ticket now. That we used to not do that. They buy a ticket, and after their shift has been completed, we'll refund them their money.
Nice.
That's like a new thought one of the organizers had. So another part of it is trust. There's so much trust. Like for the villages, I'm like poking my head into the different
You
groups who are
assign
doing
somebody
it.
that's basically responsible for that,
They
and they run it.
they show an aptitude to want to do it, and I'm like, this is yours. Tell me what you want to do. You have the room. Make it awesome. What will you do? And they tell me, and then we're like, all right, who's on your team? And then they organize a team up. And then I'm like, well, what do you need us to put on the website? And then Rick updates the website to say, here's the description. And then they hound their own groups of people to take care of it.
Well, and it is funny because it is like you said, very much like run like a business at this point. And one of the things that I've seen since I came in and started helping, there's actually been leads assigned, right? So each one of sort of the organizing group has each main channel of work, each thread has a primary and a secondary.
Okay.
And so, and each lead will have 2 or 3 kind of roles that they'll dip into. And that's kind of how it's divided. And as it grows, one of the things that's been kind of cool to watch is certain things that get big enough. You're like, okay, we need 2 leads on this now. Right. So volunteers sort of has 2 people working on it now.
Like what?
It's big enough.
Well, for example.
Well, so,
is there one that has 2 leads now?
Yeah. Volunteering now has 2 leads associated with
volunteering.
It, yeah.
The group of
the group that runs gathers the volunteers, makes sure they're all coming.
Yeah, gotcha.
Does special tickets for them, figures out the shirts for them, all the little things, figure the assignment, rosters, all the things.
Okay.
That's gotten big enough.
Yeah. Here, I just pulled it up. So we have
TV now.
What's that? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe in the future.
Yeah.
And so sponsorships. We have the good folks at Appleseed Events will handle a lot of the emailing and the outreach, but then I'm on that team as well. And then the venue team, it's Appleseed again and myself. And then we have the CFP, Kat Fitzgerald will handle that, and then somebody backs her up. And so, the different groups we've implemented to have different primary and backups for this. Social media has a couple people between Andy and Marissa handling that. And you have Andy backing you up on the website.
Yep.
And
and Eric does a lot of the swag.
Oh, yeah.
Merch, all that stuff.
Eric,
and then I back him up on that.
Yeah, that's and Eric gets the
artwork.
The cool artwork outsourced to somebody who does a really good job with it. On the years we've done those, we're not doing any blinky badges, no electric badges this year. We gave that a break for this year. And then he handles the special black and gold badge for the named person who will receive that award each year. And they get they should register, but they get 0 cost admission for as long as we keep doing it. So things like that.
Yeah. But it's neat to see it grow. You won't a thing grows a little bit and then you go, this is big enough, it deserves a lead. And the reason I thought of it, because you were talking about the volunteers and how they've matured that. Because it is kind of you get another person in to start to lead a thing by themselves, and they have a bunch of ideas, and it kind of grows.
And so first time you did BSides 2011, how many people showed up?
We had about 120 registered and 80 showed up.
80 showed up.
It was a free event for you.
Yeah, that's right. You know what? And that was one of the things you told me at one time, was that a free ticket doesn't bring in the people as a paid ticket.
Right. It has no value because it costs 0. So you may go to it, and if you just decide you don't feel like it, you're not going to show up.
Yeah, you might get a 60% show up rate, for a free ticket.
That's what we got.
But it'll bump closer to 80% or something like that if they pay anything.
Yeah, and so we toyed around over the years. We charged, I think, $5 a ticket, I think, at one point, and we had less no-shows, but that wasn't enough. And this day and age, I mean, we could have everything. It's a gallon of gas, right?
Right.
And so and then we got it to $10 at one point, 20 or 25, and then the last year or two we experimented with the sliding scale. And so that's exactly why and the problem we were solving is that you would we'd end up getting the casino folks in charge of catering coming over to us saying, you bought food for 600 people and there's 800 here.
Right.
we got a problem. Or we get a lot of people saying, why don't I have a t-shirt?
where's my
Everybody got a t-shirt. Well, if you register after we
date.
order the t-shirts, there's no longer a t-shirt guaranteed. Now we do oversubscribe some of that stuff a little bit, and people don't take a t-shirt, and so you might be lucky and there's a t-shirt, and
Right.
we say come back at 1 o'clock, and we have some extra t-shirts we can give away. But but it became a problem, became a financial problem.
Mhm.
And so what do you do when there's more demand and not as much inventory? You raise prices.
Yeah.
And so we were deliberate about that, but we try to be very transparent. That's why for so long it was $20. And then we raised it on about tax day to $35.
Mhm.
And then a couple weeks ago, timed with the deadline for when we had to get the shirts ordered,
Right.
it went up to be like 3 times the price.
Yeah. And even like the administrative burden, if you just like think through that of just the shirts thing, as silly as it is. So you have, how is it? You have thousands of people signing up for this thing.
Mm-hmm.
If like 200 people don't get a shirt, well, which 200 don't get the shirt? It has to be the last 200.
Right.
Then you have to
That
track
makes
that.
sense.
So now you have to have the volunteers tracking who gets shirts and who doesn't. So now they're checking names. It's just like, it's so much easier if you can just architect a situation where like everyone gets a shirt. But logistically, that means you have to have the vast majority of people
but then
signing up
you're
before.
buying shirts, and
Right.
you're going to have 100, 200 shirts that you might be left over with.
And I was just at our storage unit, and we have a couple boxes of things like shirts.
Oh, yeah.
From various years.
And there have been other years where at the end of the event, we go, how much is going back to the storage unit? And you look at some of the old stuff, and some people get throwback retro shirts.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, at the after party.
That's
Come to
funny.
the after party.
Yeah.
I'll
So-
take an original 2011 t-shirt.
Yeah, I don't think those exist
Oh,
anymore.
yeah.
Was that the red one?
I don't know.
Or the black? That was a black one. I still have
Can I
mine.
get it signed by you too?
Yeah. That I could do.
That would be a fun contest. Too late this year, maybe not. That would be a fun contest to see like how many people could wear their oldest BSides Pittsburgh shirt,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
or oldest BSides in general could be neat too. Anyway,
The OG event.
yeah.
Yeah.
right. And John, do you have any questions on? I don't put you on the spot, but I just want to
I mean,
see what else.
Eastside is touted like the East DEF CON. It is like I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Ben.
No, I've been.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to this.
I mean,
this-
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You were talking about like almost like you've never been.
No. Yeah, actually, believe it or not, last year was my first year.
Okay.
And I was like, why wasn't I doing this all along?
And what was it, Rick? I think you were doing some research on B-sides, and we're like, Pittsburgh is like the second biggest B-side.
Not second. It's in the top 10.
It's
and
not
they're-
top 10.
It's in the top 10.
Vegas and San Francisco seem to
Okay.
hit it, and then Baltimore has pretty big, but I'm not sure
They
what.
weren't that big.
Tampa
I
had
went to Baltimore this year. They weren't that big.
Tampa has a huge one. Where's Microsoft? What's their campus name? They have a massive one because they host it.
No, okay.
So there's like some like that, but honestly,
But there are B-sides? Microsoft is a B-side.
they host the
B-side.
the B-sides. They're not like they're probably are sponsors of it, but they provide the space
Oh,
to
okay.
the organizers.
Got it. Okay.
It's all very independent, but you got to get space somewhere.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so it's in the top 10, but there's like a lot of ties for like rough things. And I was just scoping out other B-sides websites. Oh, should we change some things? Or think about it. How do other big ones do it? And then I was like, well, who are the big ones? And I started realizing, oh, we're one of the big ones. That's pretty cool. So that was neat.
Yeah, I mean, it is, since you've been to the casino and everything, it's exploded. Like, I remember we were on one side starting off with and everything. And then one year we took over both sides, but the other side was only like some of the villages.
Right.
So it wasn't visited as much. But then last year you blew it up for both sides talks. And then they got rid of the cafeteria, which had another space. And yeah, it's just,
That actually threw us for a loop when they changed like the physical space of like, it was interesting. Like as an organizing group, we had to like refigure out where everything was because you kind of know what might fit into a certain room or whatever if you've been there 2 or 3 times.
gotcha.
And like, oh no, just the whole space is different. You can organize it differently and everything. So you kind of have to be like, oh wait, where are we putting this?
last year, was it last year or the year before that we?
I think it was 2 ago because we had that pinch point in the hallway, and we're like, oh, we need to watch how we put the sponsors
in the hallway. We can only have the sponsors that take the higher cost sponsorship. Right. They can get the hallway, but everybody else kind of moves into the main sponsor areas. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that comes to mind that would be of interest. One of the things, other things, kind of air the laundry here of what people complain about, and there's certain complaints I get, but there's really not a whole lot we can do about it. One of them is people because it's jerks. At the casino. Well, not as much.
That's actually not too bad.
We don't really have a lot of that, but I think we have some volunteer organizers who wander around and see anybody who's whatever. Yeah. They just give a little call over to the casino security.
Yellow card.
And those people are gone.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen too much.
You guys have a ban list?
Or
no, they're gone for the event.
The event, yeah. We've never permanently banned anybody. Gotcha. So hopefully we would never have to do that. But it's one of the things that happens because it's at the casino. Yeah. There's the under 21 crowd, and there are other conferences in town that I would just say, please don't kill us about it, but go look at these other ones like TRIS, Three Rivers Information Security Symposium. They do it down at the convention center, and they actually cater it towards not just professionals, but a lot of college students, and they do a lot to give away sponsorship or scholarships. Thank you. So part of their mission is a little bit different.
Their community focus is really student oriented.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so they'll do a good job of, and they're very proud of it. Go look at their website. They talk about all the money they've given away over the years, and they can handle that. And their venue fits, or their conference fits nicely into what is affordable at the scale that they're trying to be at in the convention center.
And it's a real need.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then for us, a couple years ago, for the last several years, we were able to have like in the 50 to 60 under 21s. That's how many tickets we were capped at. The casino is...
That's a casino number.
Yeah, casino number.
How do they come up with that?
They are...
Percentage of your audience?
They probably use FAIR. I'm just
right.
they probably come up with some risk analysis to figure out what they have, but it's we were just at a ISSA talk and thing was unfair. And
that's funny.
Cool. Anyway, and but they probably do some kind of analysis, figure out what their risk tolerance is for that, and then they also have to have chaperones or casino appointed security who are following the groups of under 21s around. So it's extra expense there for them. Sometimes some of the expenses are sometimes, and and if the casino, we got lowered down to 20 this year.
Yeah.
And I believe it's because the casino was tightening up because of some kind of incident or whatever that happened with somebody at some other event, not ours.
Okay. Yeah.
And they just needed to tighten that up. The casino is regulated by the state because the state gaming commission. So it's all the rules.
Like they're more concerned about underage gambling than underage drinking. Like,
well, both, yeah.
They can't pull that slot machine, but if they get a drink.
No, just to be clear, they don't let them drink.
But they serve alcohol upstairs, so it's really going down to the gaming floor that they're like.
Oh yeah, that is an actual different.
But I think that's part of why they need the chaperones, like because they're serving alcohol and people get drink tickets and you can't serve to 20. Like there's like a whole bunch of things.
So, but
less this year.
So we were able to work with the casino, and they are increasing the under 21 number back to 50 for next year. But at the same time, it made us take a look at our venues, and we're searching for other kinds of venues. The problem we run into when you think about the casino versus other venues, and is it's the pricing is still coming in to be very competitive.
Yeah.
On top of that, as a consumer going there, if you're going to the convention center, you're not getting free parking.
I was going to say free parking, easy to get to.
Yep.
It's not a hassle. There's like food and even if you don't want like the conference food and drink, like
you can go downstairs if you're over 21.
Well, right.
You can go downstairs and hit any of the other places. Plus, Yeah,
there's
And
some perks of
if
it.
you would consider going to another venue other than the convention center or the casino, you would have to coordinate all your food and drink and so, like if you're going
Depending
to
on
a
the
hotel.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
some care of it,
hotel,
yeah.
yeah, type of thing. But that's a whole nother consideration, I imagine, on yours is
Yeah.
Well, and then again, at the size, there's like, honestly, just like the options end up being a little bit limited. Like we looked at it a little bit and we were talking about
I think there might
who could
be
cater that much,
not only cater, but even give us the room split up in order to have, because right now our rooms we have 4 tracks. One's a speed or a lightning talk track, and then 3 full tracks all day long. And the 3 or 4 villages, the separate capture the flag room,
sponsor area,
all the sponsor spaces, and
like coffee in the middle of the day, like drink, like all that kind of
places
stuff.
to sit and eat, and what else? There's the green room off the side of the one. So just trying to find a place that could be split up into a dozen rooms of all the right size.
Yeah, right.
I
mean, you
mean,
just put us in the hallway.
Yeah, well, top of the escalator
with the premier sponsors.
Oh, yeah, right.
So
Just
anyway,
here.
so if you want to run, if you're looking at starting up a conference, or if you're watching this and you're going to start up a BSides, feel free to reach out, because there's lots of things that we figured out. But if you want to keep it small and start off,
you have to go small first, right? If I was, Justin Leapline, I want to start up a conference, I'm not going to start with 1,000 people coming to my conference, type of thing, unless I have a huge marketing budget that I'm blasting out.
Yeah, if you're a person that's like just trying to do a community thing, I think that's probably right. Some people do like highly commercialized conferences, and that's like their job is to build a conference in the city and do
that's another good
point.
point.
Jobs around it where like they have like 20 cities that they go around every single year, and they're just hopped city to city doing the same conference.
Yeah, their whole point is somebody is making money. BSides,
for profit, not for profit.
Is we're technically haven't applied and done the non for profit stuff, so we have a holding company that we run everything through with a named LLC, and but the difference between that is we strive to make $0. We don't want to make any money. Any money we make becomes a tax liability to the 3 of us who own the partnership that helps keep it going.
And there have been years in the past where you've like, let's do a movie. We have some extra. Let's do a movie night or something like that on the side for the community.
Yeah, we'll do other kinds of get-togethers. So I would say, and every dollar that we get in goes right back to the making the event happen. But so say that, Justin, you wanted to do something and you wanted to kind of figure out how to do it along, with, BSides. There's nothing saying that if we couldn't figure out the time bandwidth, that we couldn't say, let's go ahead and, thank you. Organize something up. So if there was something that was interesting to somebody and you're like, well, could I partner with BSides to do this? If you have a good avenue for sponsors, that's, we need the revenue side. We figure that out, then everything else kind of flows, because if you can afford to do it, everything else gets easier.
Yeah, gotcha. So that's the biggest thing is sponsors, is what you're saying.
Well, you need a critical mass of like, depending on how you're going to fund it. But either way, like the only monetary sources really, unless you get a grant or something, which I don't know that happens. The only monetary sources are going to be either the attendees or it's going to be the sponsors, and
or both. Because I wonder with like RSA. I mean, tickets aren't cheap there, type of thing.
No, but their sponsors pay $50,000
plus.
Last night I was talking to a couple of those sponsors, and they were, big names that you'll know. They were saying things like, like we're almost getting to the point where we don't want to go because it's better to not go to RSA than to not have to be a big premier company who's known at that, but not pay that level, because then you're just the optics of it.
Yeah, they're in like 50,000 to 6 figures of sponsorship money, right?
Oh yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. So, but back to the basics.
Then just paying for the booths. Like some of those booths are.
Oh yeah.
big money, you know, type of thing, like the displays that they have and everything. I mean, I could see easily people going $200,000, $250,000 for a RSA event, you know, type of thing. So, yeah.
But you said, what does it really take if you just wanted to start something? All you need, and you can do it in the cheap. The first one we ever did, we raised more than we needed, and it was $12,000. And that was, and we didn't have tables from the, have a booth. It was all, do you want to help the community to do something awesome? Yes, we do. And we got a little bit of money from Giant Eagle for some stuff sheets, donated some money. A couple of named security sponsors were in there. I think it's all on the website if you dig around. And but what you really need is you need somebody to speak.
Yeah, content.
You need somebody to listen.
Yeah,
that's all you need. You need a place to hold it at.
Yeah.
So if you have a place to hold it at, somebody to listen and somebody to talk to, you got a conference.
Yeah.
Now you want to make it better? Well, buy some food. You want to make it better, in our opinion, buy some booze.
Yeah. Right.
But if you can get some, if you
better have some of the hardware labs or whatever.
Activities, then you get into swag, and then you get into artwork, and then you have a website. Like, it'll grow.
Do you guys remember the original VMware vMugs? That started out in Penn Brewery, and all of a sudden it exploded. It was Hofbrauhaus, and then the events just kept getting bigger until it was like David L. Lawrence Convention Center.
Yeah, it was massive.
Right.
Yeah,
But,
cool.
Yeah, and you know what? To get the marketing out there's a lot of groups like BSides and Hackers Society that meet. That a lot of guys just. That's how I learned about BSides. Right?
Yeah.
Tris and
that's awesome. So.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Rick. I think it gives definitely a big aspect. And if people are interested, they can reach out to you over LinkedIn, if they have any questions or anything like that. Okay, cool. So, all right. Ready to move to the next topic here?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about how when we were talking to John before, he was talking about some of the things he's seen in the industry, which I think leads into, this, and then you and I were talking, and we had all these avenues for this next topic.
We're talking about pen testing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I was wondering where you're going with that. Not as good as segue as it is.
No, not at all. No.
Yeah, so, one of the topics that we were kind of batting around here is, penetration testing. A lot of companies do it, but do they necessarily do it well? Do they even need to do it and everything? And I think to level set, to start this topic here, what is a pen test? You want to go?
Sure. Penetration test is really to show what weaknesses you basically have a blind sight to.
Okay.
You just don't know. Like I know a lot of admins that walk around like, oh, I'm secure.
Yeah.
Until a pen test comes and there's 50 findings and most are crits.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't a vulnerability scanner work in that aspect there?
Because of human element.
Okay.
Yeah, it is definitely that human element. There's somebody that is not just running a pen test and looking for a vulnerability. They're finding something that might not even be out there, right? And that's really what I get excited about is like when we have a pen tester engagement, I love working with these guys because they're gonna, if I show them I'm interested, they're gonna throw everything that they got, even new gems that they just came up with at our facility. And I want to know, right? Because I'm going to be the inside guy having this patched before it actually hits mainstream.
Right.
Yeah.
So really, and do you guys have definition into that?
Yeah. So I mean, I think to me, it's systems testing, it's boundaries testing, right? It's just typically the security element. I like that you said the human side because it immediately made me think of two things. On the one side, it made me think of the human side of like the attacker themselves, like not being just a robot that tests one technical vuln and one technical vuln. They're chaining together things. They're seeing, oh, this system looks like it's used for this thing in this way. I bet if I just do this with it, and it's a thing that wouldn't be like programmatically tried.
Right.
Because there's some human intuition and knowledge they can do that. The other human side I thought of is like there's different kind of pen tests, right? There's technical ones, which is what we talk about, but there's also physical, there's social engineering. So there's also like the human side of pen testing, which is like, oh, I'm not going to break the tech. I'm going to break the human processes, right? Let me see if I can get it
like a physical checklist of going around hey, your door's not
doors locked,
hey,
windows locked.
You got a blind spot here. Blah 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 blah. You know, you're actually now putting it to the test.
Yeah, when you throw on a UPS outfit and carry a big box that looks heavy and throw a cast on your leg, people are going to open doors for you.
And I like your analogy of chaining stuff together, because that in my opinion is really where you're kind of getting the rubber meets the road. Like vulnerabilities can show you where your weaknesses are, even exploit it and test it whether it's valid or not. But when you have, let's say, everything around your kind of core is locked down, but you find one system off on its own wing, and you're able to get local admin and then able to get access to the file share, and then find a password.doc that's encrypted, then those are the things that a vulnerability scanner might not get at, type of thing. Just finding a password.doc.
Yeah, the depth of it.
And then utilizing that to further exploit, and go after, honestly, the keys of the kingdom. So they're going after PII, they're going after privilege rights, whatever it may be, type of thing. And that's, where you're getting it's not just I have some high vulnerabilities, now let me show you how, I can actually exploit this. And one of the things I think, I learned early on in my career, you guys remember Responder, all that stuff with the, with the weak passwords and everything. That really doesn't show up much on a vulnerability scanner, but all the hackers knew about it. And if they're able to do that on the network, all of a sudden now they're taking the hash and then going offline and cracking the password. Now they have a handful of passwords that they can now authorize around the network, know, and everything. So I think, again, those are the rubber meets the road into that you're not going to get necessarily with a vulnerability scanner.
Yeah. And I was waiting for the keyword chaining to be said. And one of the things, I love listening to some of our pen testers at CISO talk about it. Like Sean on the team does an awesome job when somebody says, we're doing a scoping call, and it's, what are you gonna do? How do you do this? Are you gonna run just automated tools, or what are you gonna do? And he's like, well, tooling is part of it, but that's only a piece of it, because tooling isn't going to have, and it's going to be a while, I think, until the AI agents are fully going to be able to do this in the same way like some humans can do. And so it's the chaining. It's not only that, it's actually understanding the business logic as well.
Yeah.
So one of the things he gets into is, well, before I can do this test, I need to understand a little bit about your systems. I'm going to look at your website. I'm going to understand what your business model is. And then I'm going to start to understand, I'm going to ask you some questions about what departments talk to each other and how your systems might talk to each other, or I'll figure it out, he says. And then he does his automation just to save time, because usually it's time boxed, and we need to get as much hands into the system as we can. And then it's a matter of going through and seeing what you can do to take errors that may be like Vaughn scanners or even a direct pen test wouldn't get, unless you start doing the application layer and seeing what you can do to get in.
Yeah.
And so that makes me wonder about, are all companies even ready for a pen test? And what?
Before we get into that topic and everything, so I do have a story of a great pen test, into this. I've seen a lot, but one of it was when I was in charge of gift cards. We did something, and I did it a little bit different. Honestly, I didn't want the big report, because you're paying for all that fluff and, stuff into that.
A lot of hours.
Yeah, exactly. And the value is in the testing.
Right.
So I kind of structured it a little bit differently, that I had somebody come out to our site, a penetration tester. He sat down with my person and trained them all week on how to do a pen test. And I said, any findings you have, put it into our ticketing system, and I'll run a report here are all the tests, things that we found during this week. But we got an extensive pen test and training on the same thing.
And you didn't have to do any admin on the back end.
And I was like, and you don't have to write a report. And they're like, oh, really? That's pretty nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, one of the things that was really cool with it, we also had a bug bounty program, and this one submission came in while they were there that week, and it said, oh, I think you have SQL injection in one of the site here. And we had a lot of legacy code. We had applications that were written in the early 2000s. It's still running onto this. Anyways, so they're like, I think you have SQL injection, but I wasn't able to get anything back. But it seemed like I did a sleep command, and it was, it delayed a little bit.
I saw some signs.
Some things like running, but I can't get any like echoing back. And I brought it to the one guy who was doing the pen test. Instantly, he was like, no, they're doing it wrong. Full dump of our database. I'm like, oh, that's a critical.
Yeah.
We got right on. We even rewarded the guy that submitted it as a critical and everything like that into that because but it was just it was phenomenal. Like the person just looked at the submission and was like, oh no, they're doing it wrong, you know. And then 2 seconds later, he's just dumping tables, and I'm like, yeah,
that's so funny.
I'd say what Joe said about scoping, that's where it all begins. Because like we had a pen tester, he came in and he's seen, they dump the database the domain controller, and they see the hashes all resemble, and it's a password, but they don't know what the password is. All he had to do is go out, look at our website, knew our business, and he found the default password for a student. And boom, that was it. And he had like
student one.
No.
No, it was spring 2026.
Ampersand. No, but it's that scoping call that kicked it all off.
Yeah.
And to tail on what Rick was saying, when they come in, like the one past, I'll be with him at DEF CON this year. Great pen tester. He came in and he began pen testing. Like he just started talking to you and just asking you simple questions just to get, like he was interested in your business, right? And you were telling him everything.
Oh, yeah.
Right? What the domain was, right? How long it's been stood up, where you host it, right? And he's just extracting this information. And he said to me, he goes, I started the pen test as soon as I walked in the door. And we had scoping calls and, and I really do say.
T's and C's here.
Yeah. You really do need to be upfront with the pen tester as a customer and give them a roadmap, give them everything. Because like I said before, I know some admins walk around with a chip on their shoulder. You ain't going to knock it off. You'll never get in, right? But you got those guys for what? Maybe 2-3 days, maybe a week.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas, a threat actor is going to be in your system for 6-8 months. Yeah.
Dedicated, someone who has a grudge or a reason to get in.
Yep.
Well, and I love like some of the patterns now of hackers is they'll get initial access and they'll sit on it for weeks.
Yeah.
Months. They'll wait until log retention rolls over.
Yeah.
Like intentionally. That's crazy.
Yeah. You were mentioning about scoping. I got a funny story about scoping. We went into a customer where literally it was an engagement and we wanted $2 million for a pen test. And it was a big company, international, all that stuff. But we were still like $2 million. Like, what is the scope? Like, why, type of thing. And they're like, it's for PCI. Like, we have a whole bunch of PCI environments and everything. And so I tried to have the conversation with them like, what about descoping? Like $2 million for a pen test every year, that they're spending because they're required for pen testing to hit all their CDEs.
Your environment seems like it could use some consolidation.
This is where like my mind goes. Like, I don't want to spend $2 million on a pen test. Like, are you kidding me?
That's
like
wild.
Right now, Yeah. So, we worked with them for a few years. They still never like descoped and everything.
Wow.
From my knowledge, at least.
At some point, the fines are less than what you pay for.
Why?
Yeah. But anyways, Joe, you were talking about like,
is everybody ready for a pen test? Like, when's the right time to get a pen test? And one of the things that when people sometimes I have to get back to the basics a little bit. Like, well, explain what a pen test is, and a little bit it's like hiring somebody to break into your house or your office or your store, but you haven't even taken the time to go properly lock down the doors. you don't have any cameras, you don't have any alarm systems. And so
your key under the mat.
yeah, keys under the mat, no motion sensors, anything like that. Nobody's monitoring things. And then you go and you would say, oh, we got to get a pen test, and you're going to go pay somebody to prove that they can break in. Well, if all I have to do is walk up to your front door, take as long as I want to wander around a place so I actually find that the key's under the mat, and then I can open up the door and nothing's going to happen. And I can go in and I'm the only one in the place and nothing's going to happen. You're not ready for a pen test because you haven't even, those are vulnerabilities you haven't even solved.
There has been several pen tests that I would go in from a compliance perspective, and the pen tester, they'd open their laptop and they would start a script, and 2 minutes later they would have domain admin.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it was usually like the SQL Server. Remember back in the day, it would used to be have a default SA and blank.
Oh yeah,
password,
absolutely.
and it had to be on the domain.
Yeah.
You know, so then it just created its own local account.
And if it was configured the right way, then it's local admin on the machine itself, because that's how SQL worked, and then you can just move. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, so it was like, but it was amazing to me. Like, I remember like these two pen testers were competing, and the other one was complaining the other one was too fast. Like, he was still booting up his computer that he hasn't even like started yet, and he already had domain admin.
Meanwhile, you just spent $15,000 for your typical run-of-the-mill mid-sized business pen test, and in 10 minutes, you know, basically, they picked up the key from under the front door and walked in, and maybe nothing else happened. I mean, that's a horrible use of resources. Take that $15,000 and go buy some controls.
There are, just to be clear, I do a little contrarian.
Yes.
There are reasons that you might not be ready, but you still want to do it or need to do it. So for instance, and I think this comes back to, why are you getting a pen test?
Is it politics? Is that what we're going to say?
It could be politics. It could be compliance.
Compliance would be the other driver.
Those are the main two, right? So is it because you need to prove you've been saying this stuff forever, but as soon as you pay, it's like the ticket price.
Yes.
You're saying it, you're an employee, so you're not free, but your boss, you're kind of free, maybe, right? Like, he's not thinking about you that way. But 30 grand comes out of his budget to do a pen test, and it's on this letterhead, and it's going into systems, or it's being reported to the audit committee. Okay, well, now the points that you're making, you're getting someone else to make on your behalf.
And there's not a ton of compliance that actually require a pen test. Like, CSF doesn't require it. Now, there are controls that can add to it. You know, HIPAA doesn't require it, into that.
SOC 2 doesn't technically require it unless your auditor sees a risk that you've logged that says you need that control. But
I group a lot. When I say compliance, though, I group a lot into it. So I typically also count like contractual compliance.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of clients will require, depending on
your business model.
Especially healthcare.
They'll actually ask for that for evidence.
Well, right. And then you say, well, I'm not giving that. I'll give you a letter on their letterhead that says we had one done.
One of our deliverables is a report that just says it was done, so you can send it.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. But so I do think there are, and I get that we're talking about, like, are you ready to chew on gain the material knowledge benefits of a thing? I agree with that. I'm just, as a why perspective, there might be some reasons, even if you're not ready.
Yeah,
you have to, or you want to.
But even at those, I mean, it's good to have it, and you could miserably fail and still like pass. PCI requires a pen test. That's black and white. But you could miserably fail and then fix the critical and highs and then pass. Type of thing. But I would think you'd want to do prep, before that. So.
Well, they call it a test. So if you don't study a little before it, like.
But to trail on to what you guys are saying, like, if you engage that pen tester, like, his job is to get the goal and then walk out, right? Drop the mic and he's
right.
But if you're engaging him and you're like, okay, well, what about this, right? And you're working with him, or her, they'll go and they'll try other vectors. They'll try other ways to get in, and that to have so much fun. One of the big vigs for me is, okay, we have whatever EDR software. This is what we have. I'm up front in the scoping call. What we're not doing red team, blue team here. We're doing normal day, what do I see? As soon as I get that alert, I'm sending it to that pen tester because he knows what he's running. I don't.
Right.
And I know that I'm seeing it, and that's the benefit. So as they get goal, now they want to try other new tools that they haven't tested because now they got time. And guess what? You find the vulnerability.
It could be loud, type of thing.
Could be Bloodhound.
Yeah.
It could be, some script that they concocted in Python.
Yeah.
Right. Does something with certificates.
I'll also say, one thing that I like, even if, so there's the old saying like about consultants, they'll look at your watch and tell you what time it is, right? And then charge you for it. I do think even if you're not fully ready, because there's also a thing, it's like, you might know that you have like 5 major issues, right? But you have the budget, you need to do it, whatever the reason is, you're in the cycle, right? Well, talk to your tester and be like, hey man, I know these issues.
Yeah.
You don't need to test these things. I know I haven't locked these 3 doors. I want you to crawl all over the roof and see if like you can Santa Claus it through the chimney, like whatever it is, right? Especially if those things aren't fixed, but you have a plan for fixing.
Yeah, I guess, to even go on to that point more, like, but if I have an environment where I have 1,000 criticals that I haven't patched for 7 years, type of thing, even if I am going for compliance, I'm not ready for a pen test. Type of thing. Because the idea is to find the lowest hanging fruit. But if I throw 1,000 lowest hanging fruit, they're just going to identify the things that are
fully agree.
There, type of thing.
I always describe it, or I've described it in the past, like visualize a picnic table. Now pour water on it. The hacker finds the fastest way to the ground, just like water finds the fastest way to the ground. Like, and so if you have it doesn't matter if you have 1,000 holes. If there's one big one in the middle, they're taking that path straight through. But if you tell them, hey, look, don't use this one or this one or this one, well, then you might start to map out where some of the other things are that might actually be blind spot.
And I've done that in the past. I mean, you're going to migrate a system. Hey, I know I have this. I know it's going to be a finding. You can test it, but let's try some other different avenues, right? And that usually works. I mean, again, there has to be some benefit for the pen tester, right? And the benefit might be knowing what the EDR is that you're using and seeing the alerts so that they can work with you. I mean, I have so much fun with these guys. But to your point, people that go through the pen test that don't patch stuff, this is ongoing. I hear this because my son's a pen tester.
It happens.
And he's like, every 6 months we do a pen test with this company and they haven't done anything. And we sit on the call with them and we're telling
that can't be driven by compliance.
No, it's probably just driven by
that they have to do it.
Yeah.
Why are they doing that? Like,
I know. This is the problem with security today, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to hear what you guys think about, like, what are attributes of a company that's ready for a pen test?
Yeah, so I would say they have a good handle on their internet exposure. Good. Not perfect, good, type of thing. They know what's listed, what's not. They know their kind of footprint, into that. They have a decent handle on their internal patching cycle, that pretty much there's no criticals-ish, type of thing. Or if they do, they have plans to address them, and the high is kind of the same, If they're like isolating them in the private networks, with firewalls or whatever, more EDR around them, whatever it may be, type of thing. And I would say at that point, yes, go to that, type of thing.
You just explained the Maslow pyramid of like security, right?
Yeah, right.
Patching and firewalling. And, right.
So, but you don't have to be perfect on any one of those, but that's what the pen test will highlight is where your weakest point.
To my analogy, so my analogy was you aren't locking your doors. So that's the first thing. And then you cameras, alarm systems, motion detectors, and the alarm systems has a monitoring contract. So what are some IT analogies for those?
Yeah. So I mean, I think maybe 2 I would add to your list. Solid inventory processes.
Nobody has.
Some are better than others. You can't be you can't be materially.
No inventory is perfect, but there are some that have
you said, good understanding of internet exposure,
Yeah.
right? I think like in just what systems do you have and like what are they used for generally?
Yeah.
Like you should probably know that. If you don't know that,
Every company needs that.
and I'd say like in identity and access, like solid identity
Yeah.
and access.
At least have a good plan around most of your system. Again, there can be isolated systems that you're managing access.
There's going to be
all that
exceptions
stuff and
at
everything
scale.
like that. But generally speaking, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a Windows environment. It's going to be, multiple AD environments, all that stuff into that, or some type of cloud environment, also into it.
Did you say some sort of alerting, or is that not?
No, I didn't put that.
I think
type of thing.
I wonder because I
SIM alerting, log retention. Like, honestly, while that's good, and I think the pen test will highlight that, I don't think you necessarily need that to be ready.
I guess it depends on what what's sort of the goal of your
kind of year
testing.
2, 3, 4, type of thing. And some of the stuff, like, would they like? I think after you get kind of 2, 3, 4 mature of a pen test, then you can start looking for detection. So you hire pen tests to see, do they come under your detection and how good that is, type of thing.
Yeah.
First year, you're going to find bugs, you're going to find the issues.
So it's not saying you don't need it. I don't think you're not saying you shouldn't have, but it may not be the first thing you test against. So like, I'm not testing, Rick, I think
That's
where you're
fair.
going with that is my first pen test. I'm just looking to see what the sysadmin that has a chip on his shoulder that thinks he doesn't have to patch is wrong about, because they can get in. Good. Now we can go fix that maturity problem, correct that attitude adjustment, and go from there. Then in the future, when things are patched, I typically have a good vuln management program with no criticals. Then I'm going to say, well, somebody's eventually going to get in. Can I test to see if my cameras are going to detect them, or my log managed system is going to flag an alert? And then will my SOC, my monitoring system, how long will it take until they call me to tell me that somebody is?
That's a big deal.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I would wait until a year 2 or a year 3, because in a way, like, again, I agree what you're like. I don't think you have to have it to get value from a pen test.
Right.
But if you have it, test it the same, because it'd be like saying, hey, test my doors, but don't test my alarm system.
But this
well, no, you test my doors and my alarm system at the same time.
I think Justin was saying that you wouldn't test it if you didn't have a process maturity in place. It's just
and honestly,
that's fair.
If it's your first pen test, you're probably going to get popped. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's going to be the biggest lesson learned.
But that's why I'm saying,
whether you logged it or not, like, okay, that could be a secondary or tertiary, type lesson. But it's more going to be about, hardening your perimeter or hardening your internal network, into that. I think personally.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be over a 3-year period. I mean, I've seen motivated people. We've been motivated. We could do it in 1 year, and we get to like the 4th pen test.
Multiple rounds.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to
that's where you make sure you're fixing the ones that you just did.
Right. Some of our contracts are more like pen test as a service,
like continuous,
and we have quarterly scopes. We work on that stuff, and when we find something, then on our GRC side, we say, well, this finding came from here, taking like an ISO 27001 nonconformity mindset, is, well, this was a problem. Where else in my entire environment might I have that problem? Can I fix that process maturity issue so that by the next quarter, when they're coming over here, they don't get this in the same way?
Yeah, I think they take the lesson and apply it broadly. Yeah, that's great.
Stop using summer 2026 ampersand.
Oh. No, it was spring. You'll never get in.
Yeah, and I guess so, we're all educated gentlemen here, plus or minus,
Who's the minus?
I am. If you would start off from a greenfield perspective, no compliance requirements, how would you architect, and maybe what things would contribute into your decisioning on pen testing? Would you just do the once a year thing? Would you scope it out multiple? Would you focus more on web apps versus external, internal? what would lead to those and what would lead to those decisions?
Yeah.
I know I'm giving a high level.
I like that question though.
I'm a big risk-based approach kind of person, not a prescriptive controls kind of person. I think applying prescriptive controls is a way to like lay down all your, say, CIS controls and just kind of say, I need to do this baseline. But more inevitably, you're going to end up spending money putting a control in place that doesn't even have an appropriate risk aligned to it, and you're going to overspend. I could have used that money to fix some other vuln somewhere else. So I'm going to take a risk-based approach, and I would need more data for your hypothetical.
Well, like what data would you take in that could contribute to your decision?
Yeah, well, I would
like if everybody's work from home.
Yeah,
or something like that,
I would start with first, what data is my crown jewels that my valuables I need to protect?
Where are they? Hosted data centers,
wherever they might be,
AWS, all that stuff. Yeah,
and wherever they're at, I'm going to start saying, okay, well, that's the scope of what I need to protect, and then I'll start worrying about the common things that are probably the first tier of things I'd want to protect, like identities. Identities is a new firewall, right? Because everybody's everywhere and they can log in. So, if I'm thinking about the controls I would implement first, these are the controls I'd probably want to test.
Yeah.
And so if I'm a manufacturing company that doesn't even have a web presence except for marketing, obviously I wouldn't do that. But if I'm a software as a service company, then and my customers access their data, which is me protecting their crown jewels, then I'm going to want to have that that web app pen test probably done before my little office that has a small firewall and one internet point of presence for like 5 people. That probably won't be my first thing to test.
Right, exactly.
I'm going to probably
Hopefully
say
they don't have any ports listing.
Right. I'm going to say, I'm going to take the approach of let's just spend the money on locking that thing down so that I don't have to worry about it. And I'll test it later, but I want to spend the money testing the attack path that the billions of people in the world could see, which is the exposed internet stuff.
Yeah, well, I was thinking like email. Then if you close out the internet router, no listing ports onto that, then it's really email and web, that you're focusing on, as anything else.
That's my take. I'd take that risk-based approach.
Yeah, I like that. I think I would start in a very standard way, but it evolve in a way that gets weird and not financially feasible. So like the first thing I think is just like some broad-based scan. Like I just like just general hit the perimeter and try to get through. And I don't really care how you do it. Just show me where.
You want that company that does an Nmap and calls it a pen test?
No, not that. Dude, be human or really good AI potentially, but still
1,000-page
still
pen
humans.
test.
Yeah, no, but like just generally
open pen test.
Yeah, but so I think I'd start there with just the broad-based general. What are the holes you can drive buses through? Yeah. After that, I would very likely want to migrate to plug all that stuff, obviously. I'd want to migrate to like a threat persona model.
Is this pre-pen test?
No. Well, post.
Well, you said greenfield, right?
I was asking. Yeah. You said
so my first one or
look
two.
Look at the exposure and fix those. I thought maybe this is like leading up to a pen test.
No. The first is like, well, yeah. I mean, fix some stuff first, then do a general pen test, and then fix that stuff.
Yeah.
But after that, I'd move to like a threat persona model where I'm thinking about the risks, and I'm like, hey, look, you are, whatever, the shiny hunters or whatever. It doesn't have to be a specific group, but like, what am I nervous about right now?
Mm-hmm.
Am I nervous about internal employees exfilling data? Okay, here, be an internal employee, see if you can exfil the data. And then I'd be like, okay, what am I worried about next? And I would kind of take it through a risk by risk or like a threat by threat perspective based on, I think, some risk modeling. And this is where it gets like unfinancially feasible, because what I'd want to do is like each month do like knock out a couple threat things. And then exactly what you said from like an ISO perspective, like when you find a thing and you mitigate broadly, right? But I'd probably just want to then roll through my typical threat vectors over and over and over.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I mean, I grew up, I really did. I grew up in a higher ed environment.
Yeah.
I didn't have any money. I didn't have a budget.
Where
So
half of your network was open and half
yeah,
was closed.
yeah, right. So we always valued where the risk was, what we needed to actually check.
Yeah.
Right. And our drivers were right FERPA and really cyber insurance, right? Which
Okay.
Did you have any like research that you needed to protect or anything like that?
no,
Okay.
no, we were just a technical college, so
Gotcha.
we didn't really have any kind of grant research or anything like that. But it was, again, we had a limited budget. We wanted to figure out, okay, how are they going to come in?
Right.
How are the bad guys going to come in? Let's just look at that. And to be fair, we didn't have a lot of SaaS applications at that time.
Okay.
Today, where I'm at RareMed, we have a lot more SaaS applications than 5 years ago when I was at the college, or
Right.
10 years ago. So we take a risk-based approach because we want to use the money wisely.
Right.
But the other thing is we also value, getting that information back quickly to do the pen test. So greenfield, I think I'd probably use Joe's approach where, I'm looking at risks. If I was me 10 years ago, that's what I'd be doing because I did it, right? I called up CISA and I was like, hey, could you do an RVA for me for free? Right? Because I had no budget. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I started getting on a cadence of doing a 1 year, engagement with an actual pen tester.
Okay.
CISA's not going to do my pen test every year for free.
Yeah.
Hey,
But you get one or two.
yeah, you get one or two.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to use those wisely.
Yeah.
But if you had a budget and you were doing a greenfield, I would hit the low hanging fruit, like you had said before, right? Get the risk that's going to produce the highest effect from that pen test, right? And sick your pen testers on that, whether it's initial access, whether, it's, it's obviously it's an initial access, right? But internal, external, and then, the subsequent pen tests, you really, once you get your baseline, you kind of know where you're at as an organization to have that second one. So I don't want to give away any secrets here, but we'll alternate. Like alternating inside outside is a great strategy,
Between
especially
vendors you're talking about?
no
Scopes.
scope. Yeah.
Scopes. Oh, okay.
And,
Gotcha.
and vendors, that's a whole other subject,
Yeah.
right? Because if you get that same pen tester every time, they know your environment, they know the way in. You blocked it. Okay, they're going to run a pen test. You did a really good job, right? I want somebody to come in fresh.
Yeah, I'll give you a contrarian
Plus and
view.
minus.
Contrarian view on that. And the pen tester that you described that would come in and do that, and then the next year come in and be like, oh yeah, I couldn't get through that same way.
Yeah.
Don't hire that one again. But the ones that get to know your environment. So everybody says, oh, I got to change my pen tester every couple of years. That's good, especially if a pen tester you're not happy with. And that's a good way to talk to pen testers and be like, no hard feelings. We just got to switch. That's our rule.
Yeah.
But what you're losing is, and I think that's what you were maybe going to think about, is the process maturity. And if you get the pen tester, that's the one that likes to come in, you engage with them. They're super happy to keep working with you.
They have all their notes from last year.
They know what they're, they're not switching out people and telling them to start fresh. They're actually building on it. And then the next test. That's why I'd like more of getting to a smaller scoped quarterly pen test on a subscription basis, because then they gain some process maturity. You fix those problems, and then they go a little bit harder on you, and then you fix those problems, and then they get a little bit more. And you bring somebody new in, they're going to do the same test that was done like a year ago by the first tester. They're not gaining that process maturity. And so that's my reason for
it goes back to engagement too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a guy come in, just pen test. Okay. Hey, have at it, right?
Yeah.
You get the report back. They're not going to try hard next time.
No, but if you engage them, like you said, you do, you get so much more value.
Yeah.
So for my greenfield, I think the first thing I would consider is culturally whether I want to do one now or later into that, which Yeah, nobody here has mentioned that before, but pen tests are a great budget driver, into that.
Yeah.
So if I need more budget or, more kind of awareness of the state of the program,
That's the political part.
I might just pull the trigger, whatever the state it is, then
Yeah, absolutely.
and get a pen test. And it will be awful, if they've never done one before. If I'm already well supported, good budget, all that stuff, I'm making sure that the kind of business as usual patch cycle is in place prior to me actually pulling the trigger on that, and focus more on the perimeter under that. And when I say perimeter, I also mean endpoints.
Yeah.
Into that.
But
So-
exposed endpoints, right? Like,
Well, even ones communicating over web and email. Type of thing.
gotcha.
Like that's part of your perimeter.
everything that's touching the outside.
Exactly.
I got you.
Type of thing. So, I mean, that's first and foremost.
Yeah.
And other things I think I would focus on. I mean, if it's a large like web app SaaS job, obviously I'm putting in budget to focus in on some of those products in there. Internal speaking, I would have more focuses. I'd probably actually default to only like every 3 years into an internal, maybe, into that. But I would actually like more focus on to like, are we resilient to ransomware? Type of thing.
That's kind of what I was. Yeah, like specific scenarios.
If somebody clicked on a stupid email and it got through all our controls, now what?
So you're talking more tabletop.
Well, no, actually, like
But actually
testing into
test
that. Yeah.
Like
So-
here's a terminated employee's laptop. We've re-enabled his account. Pretend you found it at a bus stop. Try and use it to hack into our that scenario-based
Can
stuff
I start
based on what happens.
encrypting
Yeah.
small stuff on the file drives? Can I start doing that? Now, what are your backups like? Are they resistant to ransomware, or can I overwrite those or delete those as well? Those things, that maybe I wouldn't execute on.
Yeah.
That's where your terms of reference become really important.
Yeah. This is the bigger risk, into the organization, not that.
So an assumed breach or something
exactly.
like that.
Yeah, that an employee laptop, and we have lots of different access out there, could start ruining things like Change Healthcare. I wonder if they ever went through a ransomware exercise. Probably not, if they did, get a refund, type of thing. But, in those type of scenarios, I'm looking for my biggest threats. Maybe I'm not putting it down on paper, but we all kind of know what the biggest threats are kind of coming. You say like insider threat. That's like the last thing I'm worrying about because it's so hard to control. It's a lot of money to kind of control, and you can limit it like some of the websites I go to and all that stuff. But it's not my top priority.
Well, I think it depends also like on what's your remit and what are you trying to fix. Like the way I describe it sometimes at one of the roles that I have is I try and make it so bad guys can't get in and good guys don't do oopsies.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? So if oopsies is someone else's job to mostly manage because you have a separate training team, or it might not be that big of a risk for the environment in which you operate, right? I totally agree.
Maybe you just turn on more logging onto like employee activity,
Yeah.
And if somebody dumped the client list the last month before they left, then we'd just go after them, and say, hey, you breached, terms and conditions, and now we're suing you, maybe, type of thing. Instead of trying to prevent somebody from dumping that, like that's a lot harder.
Oh, yeah.
Type of thing.
I fully agree with that. Part of my thoughts about oopsies too is sometimes that might look like an oopsie, but it's actually a bad guy who now has compromised credentials. But anyway, it's your greenfield.
Yeah, that's where I do like probably once a year some exercise, and maybe some of the like secondary systems every 3 years, or because I do think there's value into that. But here's a question in the group: at what point do you start taking a break from it? Because like, have you ever been part of an organization where you've done pen tests for 5-6 years and the reports get a little bit emptier and emptier every single time, into that? And at what point are you like, is this still worth it every single year?
But that's where you do the external, internal.
I know.
Right? And you kind of mix it up. And to tack on to what you said, like during the rules of engagement, you set up that assumed breach. So maybe they didn't get in.
Yeah, and you give them more access and that. And those are all fair, but I'm talking about like an external pen test.
Oh, yeah.
Year 4 or 5, it looks pretty empty. Yeah. Like they're like, you have a cipher strength that's a little bit below, like,
Well, that's like that's like the cyber hygiene scans, right? I'll get them, I'll open it up. There's a couple houses.
And
Big
honestly, I should be knowing about it in my vulnerability scanning prior to them in a pen test. That's that. It's
almost
a question balance on like, do I still pay 15, 20 grand for an external pen test when the last 3 years have come back almost?
Well, unless you listen to Distilled Security podcast, you might not know about all the most current issues.
Yeah, right.
No, but I think there's something there actually. If your hygiene is good enough that you've closed the holes, you're doing the things, whatever. I think the part of the value you get is actually making sure that the current state of you're still resilient against the current state of the industry. I describe it as like the treadmill problem all the time. Like, because attackers are always getting better, always levering new technology.
Right.
You have to move at a certain speed to just stay exactly where you are.
Another point with that is two other things are happening over time that you don't control as the security team. One is you don't control the fact that your vendors are releasing new patches that your teams are applying. So you have a constant state of change happening to you.
Right.
And then the other part is that if you're running a modern SaaS-based web app environment, and that's what your product is, then your developers, your systems are constantly changing, especially if you're pushing changes faster and faster. And so what was test before could be an entirely revamped architecture and app. And so if you're going to do a web app pen test, that environment might have new vulns in it.
Yes, and that's true and everything. I guess I'm looking at it. If I've been pen tested multiple times year over year, I've probably shrunk my exposure to the bare min, type of thing. So hopefully
then I would adjust a pen test to be
more web app.
Yeah, a lot more web app, and it would be all right. Well, what can your normal user do? Can I create an account? Can I get in? Give me an actual persona of a legit employee who I don't control, or a legit user, customer who I don't control, and we don't know the hygiene of the company that, maybe they have a bad user access management process.
Right.
And that account is used to try to get into my system. And then once you get into my web app as a legit user, where can you go?
Right.
And it's testing those kinds of things. So I'd probably never give up on pausing it. I would just think of more creative scopes to have tested.
Yeah. What about compliance and cyber insurance? Because compliance
Do they
is
require
a
pen
driver.
tests.
Well, for
cyber insurance.
Cyber insurance, it's going to be hard to find one that's not going to ask for that now.
I don't think mine does. Of course, I'm very small.
Well, I'm not going to name names, but one of the big cyber insurance providers, they now offer pen testing.
Yeah.
Right. And require it.
No, they don't.
Circle of life.
They don't require it, but
they prefer if you use them.
They will.
Yeah.
It might be a difference in your fees.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. But the underwriters, I mean, if you have an external pen test or even an internal pen test, and you give the underwriters not the findings, but that you've had a pen test and you got a gold star, you had someone like, CISO go and say, okay, we did a pen test, they fixed the problems, gold star, and you give that to the underwriters, it might mean a lower insurance premium.
Can affect your rates.
Right. Yep. Or you could take out more insurance.
I actually want somebody to give me a gold star. On my big gold star.
I'll just give you a gold star.
Yeah,
I don't even need to do a pen test. But speaking of stars.
Oh, wow.
That was smooth. That's a good
smooth.
I'll give you 50.
All right, spirit time here. So we are drinking 15 stars, fine age bourbon. This was a one-time release, 1,650 bottles into this. They say it's aged 14 years into this. And it ran me, I bought this years ago, and I only bought one in Kentucky. Obviously, you can't get in the PA here. But 15 stars actually references Kentucky being the 15th state of the union into that. And I thought with the American flag on it and July being the 250th birthday, this was the perfect time to break this out and everything. What do you guys think of it?
I think it's delicious. I'm going to go out and recommend everybody goes and buys a bottle.
Yeah.
Which they can't.
It's really good.
They'll hate you for that.
Yes.
But yeah, it has it's very subtle. It has good cherry notes, vanilla, a little bit of rye, you
Little bit of
mentioned, Joe. Yeah, it's cinnamon
cinnamon,
into
yeah.
it. Yeah. It is a well-aged reserve and everything. Definitely check it out. I'm not too familiar with this company. This was recommended to me. I walked into Louisville. There's a little store. Yes, that store.
I was gonna say I've gotten a 15 stars bottle from that store before as well.
Yes.
Yes.
There's a little place that when DerbyCon was happening, we would travel down. It was about a mile from the conference,
Yeah.
like downtown, a little bit past Whiskey Row. And the gentleman that actually owns it used to be the president of the Bourbon Society in Louisville.
Yeah.
And it was like it's wine and spirits, but it's an experience there. Like he will educate you. He will tell you about it. He'll tell you about the history of it, who owns it, how they made it.
This is fantastic.
Yeah, like you get an education lesson all the time there. But I usually come out of there at least $1,000 poor, into that with a whole bunch of box, coming home. And at one point, this was one of them, and everything. And I'm really glad that I got to share this.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Tasting notes include caramel, vanilla, maple, oak, leather, and baking spice, it says.
Yeah. Well, cheers, guys.
Cheers. Pass it down.
Cheers.
I tasted the leather at first, but now I taste the cinnamon, the vanilla, the cherry. Oh,
yeah. Great.
Yeah. That's really nice.
Yeah, it's so much smoother now that my palate's adjusted.
Yeah.
Quick break to hear from one of our sponsors. If you own security, compliance, or risk, and it feels like you're always pushing a boulder uphill, I want you to know about CISO. CISO helps growing companies get audit ready, reduce risk, and stay resilient without drowning in tools, endless checklists, or one-time reports that quietly rot the moment the audit ends. This isn't shelfware. It's not drive-by consulting. With CISO, you don't just get advice. You get hands-on support from real security engineers, GRC specialists, and former CISOs who help you build, operate, and continuously improve your security program over time. Whether you're chasing SOC 2, ISO 27001, CMMC, HIPAA, or you're simply trying to get security under control so the business can move faster, CISO meets you where you are. Their managed VGRC model gives you enterprise-level expertise without hiring a full internal team or reinventing the wheel. The focus is simple. Clear priorities, practical controls, and measurable progress leadership can actually understand. Visit CISOLLC.com and start the conversation. Security you can trust, compliance you can prove, and people you can depend on.
That's right.
All right. So let's do kind of last topic here. And I kind of love this one. This is going to be a fun one. So, this isn't technically, I misspoke at the beginning of the credits. Not technically CMMC fraud. This is 171 fraud. So the company LogZone, they came out, and for 171, the scoring goes, and Rick, you might be a little bit more familiar. The scoring goes from 110 to negative
208, I think.
208 into that. Talk about government coming up with a scoring.
Well, if I recall correctly, so you submit these scores to the SPRS system, SPRS, and I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering right, that was an old Navy system that would accept scores for security stuff.
Okay.
And as all the 171 stuff started to really evolve and eventually start to morph into CMMC and stuff, they're like, yeah, everyone also start using this system.
Okay. Right? But how do you get from 110 to negative 208?
Negative 203.
203.
203.
So 110 is a perfect score.
Yes.
And that means that all the controls for the 171, 800 171 are in place. And every time that you're testing and you go through and you look at a control, you as you're going through them, you subtract a point or whatever the number of points is when you're not meeting a control. And so you're
so is
all the way
zero
down.
the
Zero's,
bar, or
no. Minus 203 is the lowest you can get.
So I don't know this is just a thing I don't think I ever knew. I don't know the significance of zero being the middle line of anything.
Yeah.
I don't know that there is one.
isn't
I
one.
think it has to do with the fact that this was an older system that was being applied to a new or a different type thing.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So like, it doesn't really mean
And so what
Yeah.
this company did was they filled out their SPRS system and they gave themselves a perfect
110.
score of
Congratulations.
110. And as
Did they
part
do
of
the
it,
Anchorman like, yeah.
exactly. So that was, and what's interesting here is that was back in the fall of 2021, where they entered the self-assessment score of 110, the highest you can put in, and so if you're out there and you're not, then you're thinking, oh, I did that years ago and nobody talked to me, so I must be
Yup.
okay. Probably not. So what happens is in February 2024, the government they come along and they start assessing. So you before CMMC, you were self-assessing, you were testing to being in compliance with all the DFARS rules, and that meant NIST 800-171.
Yeah.
And then so you would go grade yourself and you'd put the score in, and that would be that. Well, then along comes the Defense Industrial Base Cybersecurity Assessment Center, DIPCAC, and they do their assessment. And when they did their assessment, they took this this company from 110 score to a minus 170.
That's what they actually scored on.
That's what they scored on.
When the government did it. But one thing worth noting, they did that like 3 years later.
Right, 2024 from 2021. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you were saying, if
you think the auditors could, or the lawyers could argue, well, they settled already, and we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But do you think they could argue like, well, 3 years ago we were perfect?
Yeah. I don't know that there's like a statute of limitations for lying to the government about how secure government data is.
What happened to your policies you had? Well, we got rid of them. You know, you should have been there 3 years ago.
Oh, can you argue that your control scheme just devolved that much?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you're still doing government contracts, that might not be the best.
Also supposed to annually
that's right.
keep it updated. So,
gotcha.
Yeah. So that really wouldn't work out too well. And Justin, you kind of pointed this out when you were creating some of the notes for us on this, and I thought it was funny is their fine for this whole thing was, I just had it here.
Yeah, it was 570,000.
507.
Yeah, thousand. But they had two contracts and they made a total of 682,000.
Right.
I did the math. That's like 74.6%.
Oh yeah.
Something. It's like basically 75%. They did that work at a loss.
Painful ratio.
Yeah.
Oof.
So they didn't make much on those contracts. One would argue it'd be better not to get into those.
One note that I wanted to add too, because I was thinking about, there was a moment I was reading through all this and I was like, yeah, but like, is there any way, because I like to challenge this, is there any way that's like accidental? And I started thinking about it, it's like, well, because if you don't know, the way you get access to the SPRS system is like, you have to request it. And then you get privileged access as a vendor to submit the scores for you. And when you submit your score, it's not like TurboTax and you just click yes. You type in 110, and then you have to attach your system security plan. And then you have to type in the date of its last update, I think. And then you also have to type in the date of its last like audit review.
Yeah, you just didn't slip and fall on it.
Yeah. It wasn't like, oh, you had a careless person that didn't understand acronyms. And they're like, yeah, well, I think we're good on.
I was going to say.
Right.
Yeah, they'd be a lot closer to their real score.
Yeah, right.
with,
That argument might actually hold weight.
Yeah, there you go. And so what they were, settling for, was False Claims Act. And
that's the charge under the False Claims Act.
And if you remember back in episode 20, we discussed an Illinois machining company that settled for around $420,000.
Yeah.
And that was the one that was related to the whistleblower case. And at that time, there were roughly, it was one of roughly 15 Cyber False Claims Acts under the DOJ's Civil Cyber Fraud Initiative. And so with LogZone settlement, we're seeing what might be the first major case settled around a widely inflated NIST 800-171 score. So we haven't really seen them coming after that. But what we're seeing though is that could be a preview for how CMMC enforcement's going to evolve. And what it means for CMC enforcement related to these risks of self-attestation that you can do until you get that actual CMMC audit.
I think it will evolve into CMMC. Like,
oh yeah,
there's this precedent on the kind of old stuff, quote unquote, type of thing. It's going to.
It's the same ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the evolution of the ecosystem. It's going to get there.
Well, and you don't have to get a CMMC audit if you're a CMMC level 1.
Right.
The level 2 requires the audit, but you still, as a level 1, need to go and get the system, use your get a cage code from the government, and tie all that to your EIN number and everything. Like Rick was saying, to get the account, and at that point, as a level 1, you're self-assessing and self-attesting, and then putting those in there. So, if you're doing that, make sure you know what you're doing. And if you don't, there are people like my team can help guide you through that.
And one note on that, the expectation is not perfection. You absolutely pass. If you're or I should say you can pass. I think there's some egregious things that, depending on what
there's some knockout. There's some knockout controls. If you're just not doing them,
there's
a
couple.
Will stop.
Exactly. Right.
So you're saying the 0 is not the
no, but actually, what it is I think it's 88. Yeah, because you have to be 80% or better.
How does this scale make sense?
Well, don't worry about the scale. That's not the important part. You just need to know the numbers.
This reminds me of that Nate Benghazi skit with the George Washington.
Yeah.
Oh,
he's like 5,000. That's what a mile would be. Obviously, but
it is good to know if you're doing these things right. You're not expected to be perfect, but then if you put in something less than perfect, then you need your POAMs, your plan of action and milestones. And is it 12 months or 18 months? There's usually a time frame by which you can get your fixes in, and then you're supposed to update the system and all this stuff. But they don't expect you to be perfect. That's an important thing to kind of know.
Yeah.
Rick, are you also doing any kind of CMMC or 171 advisory? Can people reach out to you too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure. I'm doing it in a very limited capacity for a single client right now.
Gotcha.
But if people come, I'm happy to help with things.
You did. Right.
Yes, I was a registered practitioner, and they were a registered practitioner organization, and blah 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 blah. But that's not current, but most of the knowledge roughly still applies.
Yeah. Still hand holding.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree with you that if you don't know what you're doing and into this, don't just submit a perfect score.
Even if you do, honestly, even if you do, the liability, get someone who don't just throw money away, but get someone who knows what they're doing.
Look over your shoulder
to get a look, write a memo, agree with your things. We say this in security all the time, particularly when you're making decisions and risk decisions, right? There's a reason you write memos and you have multiple people sign off on it and stuff like that. Just don't go it alone.
Isn't that the reason why people hire Big Four? Because they won't get fired for hiring them. Nobody gets fired for hiring the Big Four.
But you could also, I shouldn't be unkind. But there are other providers who might have better rates that are very talented.
Yeah, I mean, just think rationally here is the size of the organization, the size of the contracts. I mean, it wasn't even $1 million of contracts, right? It was $600,000 of contracts. And so what does that tell me? It's probably, I didn't look up how big they may look up how big LogZone is, but there's a lot of companies out there that are 15, 20 people. They are, that's their main job is to do this government kind of contracting they're not a huge multi-billion-dollar company. They're more like your average Joe company out there.
Yeah.
And so for all of those, they think, this is only never going to happen to me. It's only happening to the big guys. It's only happening to Northern Grumman. It's only happening to whoever who are worried about these things. No, the auditors are coming to look at you.
Well, and guess what? It doesn't matter that you're a sub of a sub of a sub of a prime. Those flow down provisions impact you. So you can still absolutely get hit with, was it the Fraud Claims Act?
Yep.
Yeah. You can still get hit with that, even though you're not the prime. Like, you're not allowed to lie on that stuff. And it made me think of, not to change the topic, but just as a plus one on it. In 2022, there was a thing with like Travelers Insurance and some company called ICS. And back to insurance, they lied on their insurance questionnaire.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, we have multi-factor everywhere. And they didn't.
Yeah.
And so they got breached. And then Travelers Insurance sued them to null and void the insurance.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. So not only did they get breached, in the middle of the breach, they're getting sued by their insurer to null and void the breach, which they eventually settled and was like, yeah, we shouldn't have said that. And so then they ended up with the breach with no insurance and some legal fees. So anyway, my point is, don't lie on attestations.
Yeah. And LogZone's about a $24 million-ish company is what I estimated.
Wow. Think about the opportunity costs there, right? They could have been going and doing other business. What did they make, right?
Oh, yeah.
Some odd $1,000 on that.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, I think if you're getting into, regulations and compliance is only ever increasing. Like, you think about it, when does it go away? Like, oh yeah, the standard that we have, it's gone now. Yeah, that never happened.
Well, and it's everywhere.
It's always more.
It's government regulations, but it's also client expectations. Like, if you are in a business to business organization, you live this every day. You see your clients have more stringent expectations on the security controls that you're going to have in place if you're going to have their data or access their systems or it gets pretty intense.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's not getting less.
Yeah.
We have our own in-house application. We're starting to get asked about S-bombs.
Yeah.
And we could do a whole podcast on S-bomb. Right?
Oh, yeah.
That's so boring. But sure.
Yeah. No, it's client expectations. You're right.
Got that out.
Yeah. What else you want to hit on?
Right?
Thank you.
Well, I thought this might be a good time to end the podcast, unless you guys disagree.
No.
At 49 here.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah. I'd say the only other thing that might be worth carrying over here.
Disagrees.
Yeah, I disagree. Is just a real quick story we saw, because you were saying like all these different compliance things and HIPAA risk analysis efforts are still biting companies. And so just kind of talk about compliance. HHS OCR announced a $450,000 settlement with Spencer Gifts, their employee health plan, following, again, this was a 2021 ransomware attack that affected over 10,000 individuals. And it's the 20th ransomware enforcement action and the 14th enforcement action under the risk analysis initiative. And so out of all the things with HIPAA, and a couple of us, we went and grabbed some food, and we were talking about HIPAA a little bit earlier before the podcast. And HIPAA, they're coming out with a new version of HIPAA that'll eventually be out. But one of the things that's never going to change is their insistence on doing risk analysis. And every organization that touches healthcare data is expected at a minimum to understand what their risks are. And it's almost like a trick question, because if you did a risk analysis and you still got breached, then it was probably not a really good risk analysis because you didn't control those risks. And so they're still going to come after you.
Well, you never bring a risk to zero. So if you can defend,
but you will be, your settlement will probably be better.
Put that bank or that company bankrupt.
Yeah.
Wow. To zero.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I'd say that just combined with the same theme of CMMC, you need to get this stuff done. You need to do it right. Get your risk analysis done if you're processing HIPAA information. And if you don't have the internal skills to do it, hire the right people.
I'll just do my risk assessment after the breach. That's fine, right?
Yeah. And if and when HIPAA ever drops, we'll definitely do a podcast,
But
not dedicated maybe, but good portion of it.
But I tell
Maybe
that
dedicated.
I say that jokingly because I think a big part of this fine, that 450, was it 450, 405, something like that? A big part of that was exactly as you said, because they didn't do any risk. It wasn't inadequate. They had no risk assessment prior to the breach, from what I understand.
Right.
So the lack of doing, like, what's it cost to do a risk assessment?
Well, that's what you get.
Is it 450 grand?
No,
Yeah, probably not.
No. When you get your janitor to submit the form for you, that's what you get.
Yeah.
And not only did they,
110.
yeah, exactly. Not only did they have to do the 450,000 settlement, but they had to enter a 2-year corrective action plan, perform the comprehensive risk analysis, update all their policy procedures, and train their workforce. So there was a lot more expense in it. that's
a nightmare. But that's the proactive stuff. And I actually wonder, I didn't look at this. Does anyone know how damaging the ransomware actually was?
No, I didn't see that.
I don't know that it's like advertised or published anywhere. I didn't really go looking either.
It wasn't a Change Healthcare.
Yeah, but I'd be interested in knowing like the fine damage versus the ransomware damage.
Yeah, right.
I think the threat actors have that figured out.
Wow. Yeah, they know what they charge.
Yeah, they know what they charge.
Well, and I love like working with a lot of like PCI breach stuff. Like I've worked some cases where literally it'd be like 5,000 people got their credit cards stolen, from this, and Visa would come out and fine them like $700,000. It's like 5,750. That was the fine, not the reissuance cost. That was on top of that,
Right.
At the end of the day, this company spent about $1.5 million for 5,000 people that had to replace their cards.
Well,
crazy.
And to reiterate what Joe says, so if you're touching EPHI or whatever, like, I mean, just get someone like CISO or someone to help you with that. And I CISO has some great partners with this too that are even more specialized in various areas. So you kind of run the whole gamut of that stuff.
Get help?
Yeah, get help.
All right, now I'm done.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us on this episode here. Thank you, Jon, for joining us here. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That actually really helps us promote the episodes and get more visibility into our podcast here. So stay tuned for next one. Happy 4th of July, whenever that is coming out here. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Cheers.